Hi. So I'm kind of like literally melting right now. I'm in a very unusual place than my videos have seen before. This is this is new. Also, I'm not wearing my hat because it's super hot in here. The reason why I'm here is because my partner is asleep and I don't want to, be talking through that. But I have a lot of rants to do, so I moved into over here and now I'm gonna do that rant. It's really important for me to like talk about this because to be completely honest, it's been a horrible week for me. I've been so depressed, but today things have shifted. I was listening to the song Music of the Night from Phantom of the Opera, and I was like, oh, I used to listen to this song all the time and envision the future that I'm living right now. And that kind of like jolted me, where I was like, wait a minute, I've been stuck in this like PTSD, like nightmare, sadness, everything's painful, I'm just a product of my horrible, god-awful environment. But proof in the pudding is it's not true, I'm not. And so I just was thinking about that, and it made me want to talk about manifestation. Okay, because the thing also is that I really like the warmth, so I'm kind of like, even though it's super hot and my body's kind of freaking out, I have dealt with a really strong winter, and so I'm so dramatic, but this is like, I really like the warmth. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that if you are stuck in life and you feel like you want to change things, you don't have to stick with them. That's the fun thing about life, no matter where you're at. I've learned this continuously, repetitively, repeatedly, and I will keep holding on to that point until I die, probably, and even after. There's something they don't tell you, though, about your dreams coming true, about living the life that you want to live, and it's that it comes with pitfalls, that I feel like I've truly manifested the life that I've gotten, that I've so strongly desired. I got the job of my dreams. Even my phone looks like it's going to pass out. I want to do this, so I'm going to keep doing it no matter what happens. Okay. So, a couple months ago, I had the dream life that I thought I always wanted. I had a really good support group. I had a really awesome job with really amazing people that I truly admired. I felt like I belonged, and I was at a school that I liked a lot too, seemingly, until it all came crashing down, because I spent pretty much all of last year striving to get to the point that I got to at the end of last year, and it turned out to be the answer wasn't what I really wanted. I was sacrificing so much of myself to achieve my dreams, and then I achieved them, and it caused a lot of burnout, which is where I've been at with this, and there's been a lot of weird in-between experiences that have led to now, but essentially I went from hyper productive, like top tier, like I was, star student, star everything kind of. I mean, I was failing some classes, but I was on the pathway to being a model student, a model citizen, a model like inspiration, which is what I've always wanted to be. And then I went from that to now I'm jobless and unemployed, and I guess it's the same thing, but don't have a school that I go to, failed through all my classes, my GPA tanked, lost some pretty important people to me, sometimes willingly, because I realized that it wasn't good for me anymore. But all of this came true. I learned to manifest my way into existing the way that I want to exist by reflecting a lot and doing repetitive motions and repetitive activities. For example, I would pace a lot or go on really long walks. Running, I'm really into running, except I haven't ran a mile in a month or two. Yeah, this is like my rock bottom of adulthood. I thought I had a rock bottom. Nah, I don't know. It's a rock bottom in a different way, because back then I was surrounded by darkness, and now I'm surrounded by light, and I feel like I am the darkness, like Batman. But for real, I think something that isn't talked a lot about with manifesting is that you strive for it, you work on it, you get it, then you realize that it comes with a cost. And getting my own apartment came with the cost of realizing I'm a lot more mentally ill and disabled than I thought I was, than I gave myself credit for, I suppose. Food. Didn't realize I had that strong of an eating disorder, but it turns out I do, and that was completely, like, it wasn't until my breakfast was hot Cheetos for weeks that I realized I had a bit of a problem, especially because that would kind of sometimes be my only practical meal of the day. So how the hell did this happen, right? Well, I realized that I was trying really hard to fit into society by more neurotypical standards than my own standards. And so I was like, all right, I've always wanted to do van life, so let's go find a way to get a van. And I got a van. But I'm not ready to, oh gosh. I'm not really ready to go in full van life because I have a lease. Part of the dream apartment is that I got, you have a lease and you have to stay there. Dreams come true, but at what cost, right? And I'm not gonna say that it was not worth it at all, because there's so many things that came true. Like, for example, I mentioned how I'm a runner, and I think one of my earliest instances of learning the power of believing in myself and the power of what some might call manifestation, what I call just like being me, which is fucking awesome. I have like this weird problem where I'm like, I'm either a god or I'm a feeble, meek human who is run by its own biology and doesn't really have meaning. But then other times I'm like, hey, I make the meaning, so in a way that in itself is power. So anyway, one of my first aspects of learning the power of believing in whatever is when I was in 6th grade. Yeah, I was in 6th grade. I get confused with the numbers because I was 11 years old, but I was in 6th grade. I wasn't in 11th grade. Nope. I graduated 11th grade. Graduated early. This is kind of like a boasting video, but I'm also trying to share that, like, your circumstances are just that. Like, your brain can be so much larger than that. And yeah, there's hindrances, circumstances may not let your brain fully evolve. I thought I could perfect my way into being who I wanted to be, but it turns out that environmental shifts and people shifts, and you can't thrive in a toxic environment, and that's just a truth. But if you're from a toxic environment, if you're in one right now, you don't have to stay there, and that's what I think is like a really important thing to show, to consider. And so, okay, anyway, back to the story is I've always had a knack for running, and I shaved my head impulsively because I have a problem. I chase adrenaline. Not much these days anymore. Became a shut-in, but I became a shut-in because of how much I was seeking adrenaline. Essentially, I was a really big, I liked taking risks, I like trying new things. Actually, the first video, I'm making my videos public now because I want to show how truly awesome I've always been this whole time. But yeah, the first video, you can see me talk, and you can hear me talk about how I feel about individuality. To be fair, I was like 13 in that video, but who I am at my core has kind of always been the same. I've always been a bit rebellious and experimental. Okay. So I shaved my head, and there was a lot of people were like, middle school, people judge. and I got called Caillou a lot. But I think that's where I learned that I can be incredibly fueled by spite. Something about being made fun of, being snickered about, being laughed at, and all of these things just made me want to go even harder, go even faster, go even better, like the Daft Punk song. And I ran, and I was the fastest miler in my class, boys and girls. I got 6:41 mile at 11 years old, which is actually impressive. I didn't think about it at the time. I was like, yeah, I was just, motivated. She's a runner, she's a track star. There's a car honking. So that was one of the first instances where I felt like it chose me, and that's been a common experience in my life, is that I didn't choose to graduate early. I just knew that I would. Like, I knew eventually my path would lead to that. I dropped out of high school, and then I went back in, and I was like, bam, I'm getting done with this shit. I'm getting out of here. And I did that. I got the dream job that I wanted. I so badly wanted to get a job when I dropped out of college when I was 17, and this job was completely unexpected. I just took my chances, auditioned, got the role, bam, actress in the house. But then that came with the atmosphere of learning that that wasn't really what I wanted. Life has a fun way of giving you little curveballs, but that doesn't mean you can't, like a goalie. Yeah, for me, manifestation feels less like I'm making this happen, and more like I'm the goalie who's like letting my life paths happen, and then I like boom, boom, how do I react to this? How do I do that? What's the move upwards? What's the next move? How do we go from here? I used to go from wanting to go from 0 to 100. Like when I was selling my art, I was like, get into galleries, and I got into galleries, I sold my art. But at a certain point, it comes true, and I'm just like, wait a minute, where do I go from here? Because it kind of just became another piece of burnout. That's the common case, is like if you try to go from 0 to 100, you may be able to do that, but it comes at the price of burnout. And so now I've been manifesting through small steps. I escaped a toxic home last year, and I was so close to living in my car. That's really where I thought I was gonna have to go. But I got really, I don't know if you want to call it luck or whatever, but I had a really I have many intense dreams, but I had a really intense dream that felt like astral projection for this magical place that I've always gone to throughout my life. And this place, I just knew that I was going to live next to it, and that I'd be able to go to it whenever I wanted to. And I just felt, it didn't feel like a dream, it felt like I was moved into a different portal of the universe, into that place at that time, even though I was many miles away, completely different city and everything. But I just knew that it would happen, and it did. And I've learned that just taking smaller steps is so much better than trying to make these grand moves all the time. Now I've seen that a lot of things, I wanted my videos to get popular, and then I had multiple videos get, by my standards, popular. And the most popular video on my channel, on this channel, because I've had many different channels before, but on this one, it has 70k views, which is pretty high up there for somebody who's used to getting in the low hundreds. But when that happened, I wasn't entirely surprised. I kind of expect that my channel will it will flow its way into people who actually care and relate to who I am and how I am. But it's hard to describe, where I got what many people want all the time, to go slightly viral even, and it didn't fix anything. I know better than to believe that fame or riches will solve anything. I've met many people who have had so many of the things that I wanted, they are still unhappy. And so it just taught me something very important, that even the most privileged people that we see can't evade that void that we may get. I was so used to wanting a life out of defeating this void and out of breaking expectations and being fueled by spite. But now I've been leaning more into passion and love and accepting the void, like becoming the void that I think we all have one, and we spend a lot of time avoiding it. Avoiding it. Pun not intended. But I've been trying to get better at listening to that when I do get extremely depressed and all these things, or even when I'm extremely high up and I'm like this, I'm like wee wee wee. Yeah, I try not to let myself get distracted by that inevitable emptiness that I've felt so strongly in life. But I've actually learned that emptiness, it's a place for me to feel who I am, to feel myself, to feel my life with, the life that I want to live. Things that bring me joy, things that make me feel playful, things that move me, art, of course, and music, and all of that. When a lot of my dreams came true, like for example, I've always wanted to get into raves and parties and underground stuff, and when I became an adult, it was a lot easier for me to do that, and I ended up getting into a lot of raves and a lot of experiences that I wanted to have there. I had like a rave under a freeway, I had a rave in a forest, like I went to festivals, it was fun. I was also completely sober through all of these. I'm just that kind of person. But I get really high on life. And I also get really low on life. But I am living, and I think at the end of the day, that's what I've learned. I've tried to seek meaning so much through these things. So, like, for example, okay, I forgot, like, the whole point about bringing up raves. So the reason why I brought up raves is because when I was dancing in these fields or in these places around all these other people who I thought were so cool, and I was experiencing really awesome concerts and everything, I was extremely grateful, and I was like, this is literally a dream come true. But it also, there was this emptiness, and I learned that the future and the past tends to have this fullness that I expect, that I think will happen, or that has happened. Nostalgia and yearning, they give you these sensations that those experiences will just be padded by more depth, more feeling, more meaning. But from what I've learned throughout all of this, there can be fullness in the present, and I've been exploring that more. And that void that we have and that fullness, they can combine. And life is very beautiful that way. I hope what I'm saying is making sense at all. I'm aware that if you haven't had these experiences, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But I've been okay with not making much sense. I mean, this world doesn't make sense, and I'm just trying really hard to do what makes me feel like the perfect middle ground between the void and meaning. So my experience with manifestation is that it's very powerful when you find out what works for you, and hindsight is strong and powerful, but so is foresight. And when you see more patterns in life, I think it's easier to see more of the future. I've had so many dreams that have come true, like actually like falling asleep, waking up, and I'm like, interesting. I would like for that to be true. And then it just comes true. It takes a while. I don't know. I still haven't like harnessed this ability. I'm not like, I'm a psychic and I'm gonna like tell your future or anything. But for me, I know what my path leads to. I've been having a lot of dreams recently of my videos resonating with a lot of people. And whether that happens 30 years from now or 3 months from now or however, I wake up with a sense of purpose. I wake up knowing that what I do, what I'm happy doing, what makes me feel playful and alive and free and all of that is also what the world wants and needs. That what is good for you is usually really good for the world as well. And I wholeheartedly believe that, but it's up to you to sink into yourself to find what is truly good for you, not what expectations are, not what that dream job that you think is, because it gives you the kind of status that you want to move into another status that you think that you want, which is what I thought. I'm not a girl boss, but I'm an entity of power. I'm on a different realm, and I used to feel like I had to soften myself to come across less crazy, but my hair wants me to be crazy. My hat wants me to be crazy. Who I am, the styles I love, I'm embracing it. I'm embracing the internal madness. And through that, through accepting that I'm very weird, and that I'm also weirdly powerful in these things, a lot of things have come true. And this isn't your typical manifestation, testimony, whatever. I'm not trying to sell you a product like many are. I'm just trying to sell you an idea, perhaps, a concept that you may not buy with money, but you may buy with time, consideration, feelings, thoughts, etc. The melting is overtaking. It's so hot in here, these pages are hot. Oh, this is another really awesome example of like how weirdly in tune the universe seems to get when you're also like just on your path, when you follow your intuition, is that so many people are like, you should be a DJ, you should be a DJ, you should do that, because I love music, I like hearing similarities in sounds and all of that. But when I actually bought my own DJ controller with my own money that I got from a job that hurt my soul forever, Walgreens, I'm on to you. I'm gonna expose Walgreens someday. People were like, you should do this, you should do that. And I was like, yeah, that'd be a good idea. Because who wants to listen to my music right now? Like, I have to get good. And maybe a better way for me to share my love and my passion for music is by curating through other people's music and like showing my spin on that. But when it actually came down to doing it, I did not enjoy it at all. It did not make me feel like as playful as making my own music did. And so I just had this DJ controller in a box for over a year now, and I brought it everywhere with me. I had like many dreams of seeing other people be really good at it and me being incredibly jealous, and I was like, no. My phone burned up before I could finish the video. So it's much later in the day. I just wanted to make the end to it. But essentially, I had this DJ controller that I was not using, that I was actually not wanting to do, even though everyone else was like, you'd be perfect for it. Because I realized I actually just like producing my own music. And if I love performing live, and so when I start performing live, I'm not gonna be performing as a DJ. I'm gonna be performing as me and with my own music. And now I trust that people will want to hear that I don't have to. I still have an amazing respect for DJs. Obviously, Daft Punk is my special interest. and a lot of my favorite artists started off as DJs, but not me. I thought, okay, that's a whole other story, how I became a producer by accident, kinda. But essentially I had it, and I had suggested it to many people to give it away because I was like, I don't want it anymore. Might as well give it to somebody for free. And it's crazy because one of the people in my dream that I had a dream about that was like better at it than me was actually somebody who I was like, hey, you might like it. and I told them about the dream that I had, that they were better than me, and they laughed, and I was like, my dreams come true a lot of the time. And this time I was making the decision to hand over something to somebody that previously I had woken up from that dream. And I was fueled to start DJing again, because I specifically was like, if that came true, I would explode. But now I'm like, wait a minute, no, I think I want to see them relish in that. And I was still making decisions out of spite, I think, and I let the adrenaline fuel me rather than the passion. But not anymore. And so the fun thing is that I was cleaning my room. I was cleaning, because yeah, there's a video I posted, but it was so much worse before. Like, I had a lot of things, and most of it was trash. But this wasn't trash. And the day, literally the same day, I decided to move it out of my room and like leave it, you know, clear out things, make space. This person, 9 p.m. is like, I want to drive over and pick it up. This person had not visited me the entire time that I have lived here. I'm talking over half a year. The one time this person comes over to drive to visit me unexpectedly out of nowhere, it's the same day where I decide that I don't want that in my room anymore, and that I can make space for other things, or just like have empty space. If that isn't beautiful timing, then I don't know what is. But I feel like this goes to show that I am becoming one with the void, and the void is not as scary as it may seem. The void actually inspires me and shows me a lot. The void being the darker sides of me, the way that I operate, my fears, my passions, my drive, even on the darker side of why I'm driven to do things, morbid curiosity, and all of that. And also the consequences of my actions, the negative consequences, because it's hard to fully enjoy the positive if you don't also account for the negative. And you put them together, ding! And it's the best way I could describe it. I know this video is all over the place, and this ending is all over the place too, but I want to get this up by tonight. If you learned anything, tell me down in the comments below, and have a good life. Not like you're gonna be gone forever, but like have a good day, night, etc. Stuff like that. How am I still awkward on camera? Like, you think that this would be the place for me to like perfectly have a perfect script and everything. I still can't say goodbyes, right? Okay, bye.